Good morning. This is Zoe Camper here from the ASN. Joining me this morning is Julie Samuels, my co-lead. And our special guest this morning is Mitch Weisburgh, an ASN stalwart, I might just say. So you've worked with us for many years now. You were also involved in our previous project, the opportunity to reimagine learning during the pandemic as well. So
Right.
welcome, and it's
Thank
great to
you.
have you here.
No, thanks for inviting me.
Oh, crikey, no problem. So I'm going to hand over to Julie, and she's going to take us through, and let's get started.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us, Mitch. Could you just tell us a little bit about your project?
So, well, the project is a game about decision making, and the project really stemmed from the work that I'm doing around sense making and mind shifting, where I take a look at society and all the issues that we have and the way we interact with each other. And very often we're talking at each other, we're fighting each other, we're not really solving the problems, and we're not really training the next generation to be able to work together to solve problems either. And I spent probably 5 years reading materials from kind of a wide variety of fields, whether economics or psychology or cognitive science or neurobiology, to just see what different experts in these different fields were saying about how the I guess constructive ways that we make sense of the world, and also destructive ways that we react to situations and go into fight, flight, freeze mentality. And I put together what's now 3 courses on how to realize when you're falling down some path that's not going to get you where you want to go, how to reset your mind, how to become more resourceful, and then how to work with other people so that they're in that more collaborative, brainstorming, creative thinking way of mind also. And then from that, when you all talked about the creativity project, I've had a background in game-based learning for probably 12 years. And it just seemed to me that, something, maybe I could take some of this and put it into a game. And so I developed a role-playing game where people get a chance to practice group decision making and group brainstorming and group problem solving based on different styles of problem solving that different disciplines have used, most of which are constructive and a couple of which are ones that we default to that actually lead to pretty bad results. And through following these decision-making strategies, people, first of all, they come up with solutions to problems, but they then kind of go meta, and they think and they discuss with each other and they discuss with other groups, here's how we tried to solve the problem, and here's how it felt trying to solve a problem this way, and here's why we would never use this in the future, and how we would use it. And during the course of the game, people get exposed to 9 different decision-making strategies, and at the end they're given a different problem where in their groups, from those 9 different problem-solving ways, they choose which one or ones they're going to use as a group to solve the problem.
Thank you. So question, what's the best outcome that you've experienced through this process and the worst in terms of the people that you've worked with?
Well, so it's funny because you say the best and the worst. I'm thinking both from the standpoint of my courses and the standpoint of when I've had a chance to do the game with people. Okay. And I've honestly never had a bad situation coming, and with the courses take place over a certain amount of, over a few weeks. And I am always blown away by the reactions of people to, can you hear that beep? today is the national alert day on everybody's cell phones in the United States, and I just got mine. Yep.
Oh, wow.
And Julie, Julie, you're in the UK, but Zoe, I see you got yours
We've had
also.
ours already. We've had a test of
Okay.
that before as well.
Okay. So so we've now been alerted. But anyhow, so the reactions that I get, and I mostly work with educators. So educators are either going into the game or they're going into the courses because they're saying, my students, they don't have grit, they're not creative thinkers, they're not critical thinkers, they're not in the growth mindset. I want my kids to do, you've got some techniques, just give me some techniques to get my kids to do this. And then within 20 minutes of the course, they're like, oh my gosh, when a problem hits me, I didn't even realize this, but I go into this limbic mode where I'm, fight, flight, freeze, or I'm just doing what everybody else is doing, or I'm doing something that I've already done and I'm not even thinking about it. And I can learn about this. And then the reflection responses that they use after each lesson is, I did this with these kids, and this kid came in crying, and we used this technique from the course, and by the end of the day the kid came running to me and gave me a great big hug. Or my husband and I have been having this issue with our house, and we've been going back and forth, and I used this technique from the course, and all of a sudden we were on the same page and we knew exactly what we wanted to do, and we solved the problem. So those are the types of reactions that come from the course. And I'll say none of these are mine. It's not like I've thought of any of these ways of handling disagreements or handling obstacles or being creative. It's just that I've been able to put things together from a variety of different fields, and I've never really seen a book or a class or a game that's pulled them all together before.
But this is actually kind of about finding kind of positive solutions, and isn't it that kind of seeking that kind of way forward ultimately, isn't it?
Right.
So if you're saying that there's no kind of, it's not like a pass or fail or right or wrong and best or worst solution. Right. It's a way of kind of working together for a solution that works for everybody.
It's it's not that there's a solution to the problem. It's that it's putting everybody into the mind frame so that they can work together to find something that works for them. And
but sorry to interrupt. In today's society, we always hear about we need a solution to it. So you're saying that we actually don't always need that solution.
So you're raising a really, really cool point, and as you're raising it, I'm thinking, well, that's course 2, from the courses. And so and I think Dave Snowden is actually a member of the RSA. Okay. But David Snowden came up with a bunch of other people of this framework where there's 4 different types of situations. And very often we go in as human beings, we go into situations and we assume that there's going to be one best solution. Okay. And there are very, very few problems that really end up having one best solution, and especially one solution that's kind of should be obvious to everybody else, which means that once I've come up with a solution, my job is to just show everybody else if they have a different solution why they're wrong, So that's, but those are what he would call, or used to call, simple problems. And then, but there's a lot of problems where there may be 10 different ways to solve the problems, and any of them could work. Now, they require probably a certain amount of expertise. They may require a certain amount of information that you have to gather ahead of time. You may have to analyze the information. But given the fact that you're looking at the information from some level of expertise and you have access to good information, you could be 100% certain that your solution is going to work out. And in those situations, it's much less important which solution you choose than the fact that everybody is doing the same thing. So if you're building an airplane, You know, you wouldn't have one group of people who were building an engine based on a propeller plane, and another group of people who were building something based on a rocket, and another group of people building a passenger area, and another group of people building a fighter plane. No, you could kind of arbitrarily say, okay, these are the plans that we're going to go with. And just as long as all the different people are working from those plans and they understand that they're working together, you're going to end up with a plane that flies. So the time that we spend arguing about which is the best plan is really wasted. And if people went into those situations and they had that type of outlook that, it doesn't matter which of these solutions we're going to do, but let's just go and start working on it, the whole process of coming up with a solution would be very different. And then there's new situations, and in a novel situation, nobody knows what's going to work. And you look at what happened with COVID, okay? And really, nobody, maybe we do or maybe we don't know now, nobody knew where it was from. Nobody knew how it was transmitted. Nobody knew how sick people were going to get. Nobody really knew how to cure it. And so in those new types of situations, you have to be trying different things and learning from them. And one of the worst things that you could do is to employ experts to make your decisions for you, because experts are locked into their way of doing something. And so an expert comes up and he says, or she says, everybody needs to wear a mask because masks are the way of stopping the disease from spreading. And then 2 weeks later, the expert, for some reason, comes up and realizes that masks are in short supply and comes up with the idea to say, oh, you know something, masks don't do anything. Nobody should be wearing a mask. And then 3 weeks later comes up with the idea, well, you know something, now masks are in supply. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, masks are the one thing that we should be doing, plus we should be 6 feet away, And so you kind of, you lose your credibility when you pronounce these solutions as if you really know what you're talking about, when you don't yet. And in those situations, you need a wide diversity of people to be involved. Different ages, different sexes, different cultures, different economic strata, so that different types of expertise, so that you make sure that you're looking at the problem from its different facets, and then come up with things that you can try, or things that you can simulate, things that aren't going to kill you, that you can learn from and get better. And then and pretty much anything that's dealing with people is this type of a complex problem, because we never know how people are going to really react. And then there's a fourth type of problem, which is, like, hey, something's urgent, like a flood, okay? And the number one thing we have to do is get everybody to be safety. So if there's a flood, at the point where you have a flood, that's not the time to be thinking about, gee, you know something, how do we prevent floods from ever happening in this region again? Okay. No, when there's a flood, it's like, get people safe, to safety. And so in those urgent situations, it's safety first. Once you're safe, then it becomes probably this complex situation or a complicated situation, and you can deal with what you're going to do long term. So by looking at really these 4 different types of situations and 4 completely different ways of solving problems, you can really work with people to much more graciously and collaboratively start moving forward with the types of situations that we face as a society.
Wow, I'm just thinking, so it's the whole way of thinking about creativity, because the mind is actually working in a very, very kind of different way. That kind of like the collaborative brain, isn't it, where everybody kind of inputs, and that's and that's something that we don't do, but it's absolutely fascinating, Mitch.
We should.
Fascinating.
Right?
Yeah, we should.
You take people, you use some medieval scene setting as well. What on earth made you do that?
Well, I love playing. And you've known me, Zoe, and well, Julie for a little bit less time, but Zoe, you probably know me for 8 years, and you know that my maturity level is probably that of an 8-year-old.
Very low.
Maybe 9-year-old. So I just love playing. So it just kind of dawned on me, for the game, let's take it out of things that might get people upset. If we built a game on trying to save the planet today, okay, people might argue about, oh no, is it really CO2 that's the problem? Is it really, is pollution the problem? So let's take it into some, imaginary realm. And it just hit me that, well, why not a middle-aged village? So in the problem-solving game, you play a role. You're a villager in a small village in the Middle Ages, and there's you're a part of a team of 4 to 7 people. Each person has gotten a description, and you've got a general description for what each person does. There may or may not be factions on the team. And you're faced with some type of an existential issue for the town. Like I think the first one is that a dragon is killing people in the town. So what are you going to do? And and so one of the things that medieval towns did when they were faced with dragons is they would sacrifice a kid each year. So that's one of the suggested
volunteer
solutions.
mine.
Right.
That's quite habit.
Yeah. So that's and so one of the people is basically told, this is the solution that you're going to propose. Okay. Somebody else is told something else. And your team of 4 people or 7 people start discussing different solutions with either trying to build on each other or tear each other down, or it's a political fight or something. And so you're when you come back and you talk about what it felt like to be trying to solve to solve the problem under those circumstances, one group of people might have been told, typical way we try to solve problems today is you get a group of people, one person's going to propose a solution, and then when it's your turn, you're going to first start out with why that person was wrong, and then you're going to give your solution. Okay. And then, another one might be another group, another team may have been told, okay, first person's going to give a solution, and then after that person has gone, when it's your turn, the first thing you have to do is describe what you liked about that first solution, and then you can add to it, but you can't strike it down. Okay. And then, so those are 2 of the 9 different strategies that people use. Each problem has 3 teams. So one team gets one strategy, second team gets a second strategy, third team gets a third strategy, and we come back together again. We have this rich discussion about why the teardown people, they never come up with anything. Okay. It's like, well, we couldn't come up with anything. We were just so busy disagreeing. And the people who built on each other's, generally they all come up with something. And then there's a third group, which really, and generally they'll come up with something. And there's a reason why one of the strategies will tend to give a better solution than either of the other 2. And then in the second problem, it's a different issue facing the town, and you're giving three different strategies for working together. So you get, as he said, you get exposed to 9 different strategies. So what was your question?
So why did you put dragons in? But you
dragons, right?
Yeah. So
right.
we actually tried that out, and I found it very difficult with you. Not difficult with you, but to actually.
Everybody finds it difficult with me.
Yeah,
you're not alone.
Go.
Get in line.
Actually, knock something down. I found that really hard. So I discovered something about myself. I wanted to build. I don't strike things down naturally. So and yet
there was another group where we did this with, where that group, they honestly had the most fun, or the second most fun. The most fun was the group in a different part of the problem that was told, or different problem. You're told the first person's going to give a solution, and your job is to first insult the other person, and then you
I'm
talk
in that
about
group.
If they had the most fun. I mean, like, you could hear them, they were just laughing. So, because they just really got into insulting each other. And of course they never came up with a solution, right?
Sounds like our politicians.
Right, yes. On both sides of the ocean, right?
Definitely. But what I find fascinating, the fact that he's all set kind of pre-technology, pre the digital age.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that we've got dragons and you're told, you have to sacrifice your child, or things that you wouldn't imagine that you would have to do, but it's a whole new way of thinking, isn't it?
Yes.
And I think that's what's so fascinating.
Well, and so some of these things have been, these methods have been done for hundreds of years. So you say totally new way of thinking. I'm not sure
it is for me because I'm not prehistoric.
Yeah, right. Well, no,
not quite.
But the idea of these 4 different types of problems that started evolving in the 1990s with Dave Snowden. Another method comes out of military strategy, which started evolving in the 1970s with a U.S. fighter pilot. Being prepared to iterate rapidly. So some of them aren't really new, but we don't really spend time teaching people how to really make decisions, or how to be creative with others, or how to collaborate, or how to build on solutions rather than fight. And it's a shame because and in the course, I mean, the game isn't about this, but part of our limbic reactions are, we give up very often. Okay. But the idea of giving up, sometimes, we do need to pivot, but very often we're giving up because we have this saboteur, or what some psychiatrists call, a part X, which is always telling us that we're not good at anything. And so the first thing that happens that doesn't work out the way we want, it's like, oh yeah, of course I'm never good at anything, or bad things always happen to me, so let me just give up. But that's just a voice. That's not true. And when you learn to recognize that that's just a story, a simplification of what's really happening, designed to protect you from further harm, but it's not necessarily the truth, and you can quiet it and become more resourceful. It's like, oh my gosh, I can keep up with this. I can find other solutions, and you get access to both your own resourcefulness and the resourcefulness of people around you. So I don't know did I answer your question, or did I go off on another tangent?
Oh no, there's just so much to unpack and think about there, isn't there? There's just so much processing to do.
I think that's something that's come late to me, is recognizing that the little figure on my shoulder that's constantly telling me things about what I'm doing, why I'm doing them, why I've just reached for that piece of cake, why I need to have that piece of cake, when clearly for me I shouldn't be having it. But understanding that is something that you can control, and I love the way you said you can quiet it.
Yes,
is something that I think I would certainly benefit from understanding how to do that in a better way. So I think my question to you is, you're using a very, in our terms, very creative approach to problem solving, to finding ways of people responding to each other in
thank you.
ways. And it's not a case of, if I go to the other extreme of, say, 4 and 4 makes 8, and there's a specific answer to that. We've had many discussions about how you measure, and how we in society want to measure things, and want things to add up, and want things to make sense. Gone to in another direction of actually forcing it to break out of that making sense.
Well, thank you. That's what I've tried. Yeah.
So why is creativity so important. Do you think it's been given a label and it's been owned by people and we need to unleash it? What's going on with creativity?
Yeah, there's so I actually prefer the word resourcefulness. And and even synthesis, okay, where well, in terms of problem solving, I think that, you know, pure creativity is just incredible. When I look at artwork, when I look at, you know, Zoe, some of the things that you've created, like um I could never even dream of coming up with it, even after I've seen what you've done. Okay. Um, in terms of problem solving, you know, in my mind, I'm going back to this military strategy with the John Boyd's, where he talked about, you know, analysis and synthesis, where in analysis, you're taking things apart and analyzing them, and in synthesis, you're taking things that may not have been ever put together, and you're putting them together in some novel way in order to come up with some solution or possibility. And I don't know that any of the things that I've done have been the pure creativity, or that in my courses or in the game have been the pure creativity part of it. But what I've tried to do is pull things from different sources that maybe have never been put together before, in order to solve things that that we all face, and to be able to work together to solve them. You know, innovating in terms of building on things that other people are doing instead of fighting them, synthesizing, you know, pulling something from engineering, but also pulling something from human relations, and maybe pulling something from economics, in order to come up with, oh, you know, something we've never done this before, but you know, but these things fit together. Or to me, you know, teaching and coaching and selling are all forms of influencing people and changing people's behavior. And so I read a book on sales, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can use these techniques in selling when I'm teaching kids. And I read a great book on education. It's like, well, you know something, when I'm coaching, you know, I can use these techniques. Or when I'm if I'm selling, I can use these techniques in terms of selling. And that's what I try to do.
Fabulous.
But my question is, when can I join the course?
Well, I have to come up with, I have to redo the times. I've been teaching a lot for people who are on the West Coast of the US. And so those times don't work for you, Julie. And I know that, you know, because I'd love, because the next course is actually going to be in January, but it's at, you know, 4 p.m. Pacific time, which is 7 p.m. my time, which is midnight your time, right?
Do it.
That might work for Julie, actually. She's a bit of a, yeah, she
really
stays up late.
Yeah, I could do midnight.
Okay, all right.
For midnight.
Well, then I'll send you the link to that course.
I would love to do. I would love to do some of it. I'm just so fascinated by it.
But if we could get a dozen people in the UK or a dozen people in Europe to just take the course, I'll do it at a time that works better for, you know, for Europeans. You know, I'm happy to do it in my noon or in my morning, so that it's a better time for you all.
I think we should try, as part of the exhibition and the 6 weeks of creative experience, that we get that out and try.
Okay.
And
definitely.
Yeah, maybe for January, February.
Yeah, we could kind of, I mean, once we go offline, you know, we could work together to put together a date and time in January, maybe like, you know, Mondays and Wednesdays, or Tuesdays and Thursdays, or something like that, at 5 o'clock in the evening, London time.
Yeah. Well, we'll carry that conversation on, but I think we'll draw to a close now. Is there
Okay.
are there any last words you wanted to add, Mitch, or you're happy? Have you said what you wanted to say?
Well, I will say, I think that Julie has done a great job in pulling this together.
Thank
Oh,
you
and
very
Zoe,
much.
you too.
Brilliant.
No, you two have been great. You know, I enjoyed the banter, you know, that we have, you know,
Yeah.
when we're talking, and you know, and that makes it fun. But what makes it productive is you know, incredible competence and professionalism of the two of you. So I just want to thank you.
Oh, you're a star,
There you
you are.
go.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mitch.
Well, we'll sign off. Thank you, Mitch.
It's been a
Can't
pleasure.
wait for people to explore your work as part of the exhibition.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Okay.
Thank you.